And hello everybody, I am Mike TheZorch and this is Tygra Kahn.
Yo.
Hey, and today we watched the Electronic Arts press conference. Somewhat interesting. Definitely wasn't what I was expecting. Was not definitely expecting that. They were, I have to say, it was very subdued for a press conference from EA. Very subdued.
I don't know. I think maybe that's the thing. Is like they've had such a spanking lately that the thing I kept noticing was the almost repeated, like there was almost this sort of kind of constant repeated phrasing of how did they put it?
They kept talking about
no loot boxes, kind of what we're doing, and making it for the fans. And there was some obvious damage control.
Yes.
Going on that it pervaded much of the show.
Yeah, they brought that up, especially when they were talking about Battlefront 2 and what they were doing with Battlefront 2. They reiterated that they said that they were committed to Battlefront 2.
It was the loudest there.
Yeah, when the leaks said that they were giving up on it, and the fans were mad. I remember seeing that the fans were mad about it. I'd say, you know what, I'm not going to comment on this. I'm going to wait until E3 to see what EA says. And they did say something. They made a statement. And now they've got Clone Wars content coming. Although, no Ahsoka.
No Ahsoka.
Ahsoka or Riot.
At least, let's say, at least nothing that we've heard of. If they are going to do it, they did announce it.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
I think they would have made a big deal out of Ahsoka.
But we're gonna have General Grievous, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Count Dooku as playable characters.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's better than nothing.
The thing I didn't see from it that I would have wanted to see is they talked about Geonosis. We didn't see any of it.
Yeah.
When he said Geonosis and he said it was their biggest battlefield ever, the thing that came to mind was when we talked about some of the biggest, battles, the most intense, like, is this really, wow? I mean, they really did over the top.
That second battle of Geonosis in the Clone Wars series, that was intense.
Yeah, I mean, there is some serious fighting there.
Yeah.
So I was kind of hoping to see the battlefield and see how big, kind of a sampling of how big and how intense the fights could get.
Yeah.
And they kind of skipped that part. So I was a little disappointed at that. I wanted to see what those battlefields looked like.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, and they didn't show Dooku or I wanted to see how they made Obi-Wan Kenobi look, because how they animated, how they made him look. Did they make him look a lot more like Ian McGregor? Did they, go for the real look, or did they go for the animated look? How did they make him look?
Going more for the realistic look, so I think they're not gonna give him the
Ian McGregor looking.
More Ian McGregor, less cartoony Clone Wars-ish.
More movie-ish.
Yeah, more movie-ish.
I wonder if that's why Ahsoka's not there. There was no movie version of her. There was no live-action version of Ahsoka.
It's possible. I mean, they could still just make a shorter, a shorter.
No. Think about it, because Grievous. Grievous we saw on screen.
Yeah, Grievous we saw in the movies. Count Dooku we saw.
Anakin.
That was Christopher Lee.
Anakin was. I thought Anakin was one of them.
Anakin.
Grievous. And Obi-Wan.
Yep.
And Dooku, so that's 4. So because you forgot Anakin.
Yeah. Anakin.
Yeah. So those are all on-screen movie characters. There's no live-action version of Ahsoka. That would be a big deal for them to do her because they would have to represent her in a live action format.
Yeah.
That might be why they didn't do her. Now, we have seen other, what was her race called? It's not Twilight, the other one, but
Twilight.
Was it Twilight?
Yes, she's a Twilight.
Twilight. Now, we've seen other Twilight human before.
No, wait a minute, no, she's not a Twilight.
Not Twilight. That's
She's...
Era's race.
Oh, what is she? You know what, let me look that up real quick. Google search. What race is she? Togruta.
Togruta, that's it.
Togruta.
That we've seen other human Togruta, or live action Togruta. That was
Shakti
the name
was a
Shakti.
Togruta.
So we've seen her.
Yep.
So we know what they should look like as human or as live action, but there's never been a live action representation of Ahsoka.
Yeah, that's true.
And for them to do her, it would have to be a whole new art. It would have to be a whole new representation of her.
And they probably thought it was safer not to do a version of her unless, you know,
for that reason.
In case, you know, Lucasfilm wanted to go back and do in case Lucasfilm wanted to go back and do an Ahsoka movie.
And that would be unheard of. That mean if they were going to do a movie about anybody and give them actual because we don't have, her story's not over.
No.
Not without spoiling anything, her story is not over.
Because there's everything that happened after Clone Wars.
She could be, no, here's the thing. They could represent her from the Clone Wars all the way to the Last Jedi era stuff. Now, I doubt they'll do it, but they could represent her anywhere along that timeline because we don't know where else she can pop up.
Mm-hmm.
So, because her story's not ended.
Yeah.
And they definitely implied that her story continues post Return of the Jedi. So
Yeah.
as an older Ahsoka as well. So she could be anywhere.
Oh yeah.
So they may not want to define her as a Clone Wars character. Because you've got three possible eras for her. You've got the Clone Wars era, the more adult Rebels era, and then now a post Return of the Jedi era.
Yeah.
So they have three eras in which to possibly represent her appearance as a child, as an adult, and as a more older adult.
Yeah.
Because she would be like in her 40s or 50s at that point or something.
It depends on how long her race lives too.
Well, that's true, but obviously long enough to get Return of the Jedi era.
Oh yeah.
And potentially after that.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have a defined story arc for her, the other side of that. And they may choose to represent that instead of her Clone War era version. Or both, like an old Ahsoka, young Ahsoka, or whatever, or just some kind of modification to her or something.
Yeah.
It's more complicated with her because you do have different ages for different characters because you have Anakin and then you have Vader. Two different points along the same person's lifetime. So it's going to be weird if you have one person playing Anakin and another person playing. I don't think they cross over like that, but I don't know how they do it. But
yeah,
it's going to be kind of funky when they start doing that.
Mm-hmm. So they started the EA started the press conference with Battlefield 5. That was the most recent announcement, and we didn't get much in gameplay. We saw mostly just campaign trailer. Seemed like it was more of a story-driven campaign, more of a character-driven campaign. We didn't see anything in multiplayer. I think what they did is they were focusing on the single-player side, probably the rub it in the face of Activision, who was getting rid of single-player.
Which game was it that he announced we had a battle royale thing? Was that one or was it another? Where he kind of at the end, at the very end, he said battle royale, and everyone kind of cheered at it. Was that one or was that a different?
I think that was Battlefield 5. Well, I was in the middle of talking to Daniel from Gamers Bay while that was going on, so I missed a lot of that.
Yeah, because I remember him going battle royale and everyone cheered. They didn't show nothing. He just said it and moved on.
It could be Battlefield 5. It would make sense because they would want to go up against Call of Duty, Black Ops, the new Black Ops 4, which is Battle Royale.
Taking notes. I was relying on your notes, so
yeah.
That's why I said just take notes because I won't remember half this later. But
yeah. IGN's gonna be covering the crap out of this too, and we're gonna be following because if you guys want us to be able to go to E3 and actually attend E3, because we've been building a new set here and stuff, and then there's a new machine being put together, working on it. Actually, you were in the process of earlier wrangling it and getting it to behave
like a bull in a china shop.
Actually, bulls don't knock over china shops. Mythbuster sort of busted it.
I haven't knocked anything over it, but I am definitely raging bull when it comes to that mess in there right now.
Yeah, but if you want us to be able to attend E3 there in person, be able to at least be able to try and get the chance to go and attend there in person, help us out by either donating to our Patreon. We also have stuff on Steemit, and we'll have other avenues in which you'll be able to assist us where you don't have to actually open your wallet. You'll be able to assist us in other ways with the channel, getting funding for the channel so that we can attend things like PAX East, PAX Prime. We can go to things like E3 and possibly even Gamescom over in Germany in the future. But if you want to help us out, that would definitely help us. And Dennis Bridgewater in the chat. Yeah. So then, of course, FIFA 19, and they didn't mention anything about microtransactions and loot boxes or anything in FIFA 19. I thought they
had said that it wasn't. I think they specifically said it wasn't, didn't they?
They were saying that about Anthem.
I don't think any game they put in there had any kind of loot box or any of that. Or if it was like Battlefront where it's already in it. But I don't think any of the other ones they showed had it, as I recall.
Yeah. I don't recall them. It's not in my notes where they said that it wasn't. I would have put it in my notes.
It would have stood out if they had.
Yeah.
I don't think any game had it at all, unless it already had it.
Yeah, because over in Europe, FIFA's a big deal FIFA's a big game for EA overall, but over in Europe, FIFA is big because of the World Cup.
It ain't gonna have it. They wouldn't have done it as much drama as they created. They wouldn't have dared.
Yeah, because EA has the FIFA license along with the NFL license, and it would be catastrophic for EA to lose the FIFA license.
Oh, yeah.
Because FIFA is big for EA. It's bigger than the NFL. Bigger than the Madden NFL license.
You could actually tell that by just looking at, because they had an NFL game later on, I think it was a Madden game, and just the overall presentation of the FIFA stuff as opposed to the NFL stuff. It's like, yeah, we got FIFA, and there's this NFL. That's kind of the way it felt.
It was what I noticed about the whole conference is that, except for the FIFA 19 stuff that they were doing, the stuff for for FIFA they were doing. Everything else seemed very unscripted. It seemed less polished than what their previous E3 conferences were.
Like the most scripted they did was the opening, where they did their little fancy 3D opening.
Yeah, their little fancy AR opening for Anthem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's about it. This is the least scripted, least
it was still scripted, but
staged.
I mean,
It didn't feel staged. Way more relaxed. It
was way relaxed.
It wasn't staged. It wasn't over the top,
Staged big,
cringy.
Yeah. It wasn't staged big.
It didn't have that over the top, cringy feel that you usually have with this conference.
You had that one woman running around doing all the talking and stuff, just basically trying to be friendly.
Yeah, I mean, it was the overall feel of the whole, of the whole thing.
They weren't going crazy with it. I mean, as a conference as a whole, as a presentation, they were just being the opening act, and they were playing it low key. And there was a few things in there that basically they were like, yeah, you're going to see this in one of the other conferences too.
Dude, Terradome. Right at the movie arcade. Well, okay. Commenting on the comment.
Oh.
So, the big things they talked about for FIFA is apparently they're following a new character. The last FIFA games they were following this one character through his career, and now they appeared to be following a new character through a story campaign for a new character, and they're going to have the Champions League. I don't know much about.
They were kind of going on
football.
About how you could play the. Yeah, no, they were like talking about all the different ways you could play it.
Yeah, all the different ways you can play it.
From following one particular character to going out and kind of making your own fantasy version of everything.
Yeah, and the Champions League, they made a very big deal about that, where you could go through the whole, all the modes in the game with it. And then FIFA 18, they have the World Cup coming up in FIFA 18, and also they'll have the free trial of the game.
Yeah,
starting right now.
Today you can play the whole game with the free trial for a period of time.
Yep.
So
another thing they talked about some, but they didn't talk about it a lot, is that they have a game streaming service thing starting up with some business partner in Israel.
Yeah.
They didn't focus too much on that. I think
was this the one with Origin's access?
This was after. This was before that. Oh. This was some game streaming service, similar to what Sony does on the PlayStation 4, where you can stream games.
Is this where he was mentioning subscription?
There was a subscription in that, and then the subscription there was Origin Access Premier.
Yeah.
That was a subscription service where you get access to a huge library of EA games, plus Madden 19, FIFA 19, Battlefield 5, all on consoles and PC, except except PS4.
This reminds me of my little commentary I had at the time that I was thinking about when I was seeing that is this whole idea.
Yeah, I have notes on here that says to remind you about the issues you said you saw with that.
Yeah, the thing that kind of bothered me a little bit is when you have a game company who is kind of publishing their game, and there's nothing technically wrong with a game company going, okay, we're going to put all our games online, pay us X amount a month, and you can play our entire library. You know, that sounds like a great idea on the surface, but here's the kick.
Adobe does that with their Adobe Suite when it's not games, but it's software.
I know, but what I'm saying though is there's a kind of a catch to that. That okay, so let's say EA does it, and then Activision does it, and then pick your next company, whoever else does it, and someone else does it. You know, it's like after a while you're paying nearly $30, $40, $50 a month to have access to all these disparate different libraries. So I see a bit of a glitch there, that there's no collection of that, and that's never really going to be, I don't think, because none of these companies are going to want to do that. At the same time, you're going to get gouged by company A, company B, company C, go on in, all doing that eventually, and if EA will do it, and then Activision will.
That's what Microsoft service. I forget what's the name of that service on Xbox. They have an service on Xbox where it's a subscription for a monthly fee, and you get access to all the games on the system, all the games in the library.
At a console level.
On a console, yeah, because you can
at a console level, but just individual companies doing it, I don't know about that part of that.
Yeah,
because that can stack up pretty fast.
Oh yeah. I mean,
and that was the issue. That was the issue I saw when I saw that.
I could easily see Valve maybe wanting to start a subscription service on Steam, where you get access for a monthly fee. You get access to all the games on Steam.
And see, in a way, Steam would be a good other platform for that if you were doing it at a platform level, because Steam's got the dominant share in terms of gaming platforms, on a system.
Yeah.
Plus they have their Steam. It could give purpose to their Steam Link as well, to some degree. But individual companies doing it, that I don't think is such a useful thing.
Yep. And
they can do it, but
Daniel's in chat. Gamers Bay, our fearless leader, is in chat.
But that was the thing that I thought about when we saw that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and they didn't show us any gameplay of it, but we have some information on Respawn's Star Wars game, and it was announced some time ago that Respawn Entertainment was working on a game in the Star Wars franchise.
Yeah, because I was trying to figure out what they were talking about. Because she was sitting down talking to that guy, and I was trying to figure out. I was like, "Are they talking about?" No, they're not talking about Battlefield.
Nope.
And I was like, "What are they talking about?"
Yeah, they talked about this.
Another Star Wars game.
Yeah, they talked about this right after they got done talking about Origin Access Premiere. And the guy was basically sitting in the audience, and they were talking to him. He's from Respawn Entertainment. Respawn made the Titanfall games, the first FPS, the competitive FPS games where you're a pilot, you're running around, you have a jetpack, and then you can call down a Titan, which is basically a mech, so you can climb into and battle out. And when you lose your mech, you can call it back down after a cooldown. Never played those. The first game was built using the Source engine, and it was pretty good looking, and a lot of people played it. And then the second game came out, and it had a campaign. But it came out around the wrong time, because it was brought out around the same time that the Battlefield 1 was brought out, the same time that the other Call of Duty game, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, was brought out. It came out around the same time, and so it was overshadowed by those two. And not a lot of people played it, and it had good reviews. It was a good game, it's just not a lot of people played it. So now they're working on a Star Wars title, Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
It will take place during the Dark Times, sort of that period between... Oh, oops. This arm is horrible. The lucky thing is we're switching to the new arm once the set's done.
Yeah.
It's in that period between Episode 3 and Episode 4, so it's happening in that time period.
Well, what's interesting about that time period is that time period used to be unknown time. Now it's pretty well fleshed out for the most part.
Yeah,
there's a lot of books and storylines that go through there now.
Yeah, it's getting fleshed out pretty well. So it's taking place then. It'll be available the end of 2019.
Yeah, the end of 2019.
Beyond that, there's no more details. Basically, Jedi on the run after Order 66.
And there's a lot of storyline that. That
Yeah.
that can actually have some fun with that, because we see a little bit of what that could be like just by watching Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah.
You're fighting with the Inquisitors and stuff.
We opened with this, but they talked about Battlefront 2, and where Ewok Hunt, game mode Ewok Hunt. That was really popular. People really liked that. Apparently.
Was that part of Battlefront or was that no?
Remember the dark matches in Unreal in Unreal? The multiplayer Unreal
Match?
Yeah, the dark matches, where the map is really dark. You can't see anything without a flashlight, and you're basically trying to hunt other players in the dark. You need a flashlight or some other light source to see.
I remember looking at that video going, I think you're the one being hunted by teddy bears.
That's essentially what it is you one side plays stormtroopers, the other side plays Ewoks. And so your stormtroopers in the dark trying to defend yourselves against Ewoks.
The stormtroopers are so screwed.
And it proved to be a very popular game mode, apparently. They're going to have some new kind of squad system where it'll make it easier to get together in a sort of building like a party system into the game. A new starfighter mode, which might be interesting. A sandbox capture point mode. Be something like maybe the old capture point game mode that was in Unreal Tournament, or maybe the capture point mode that was in the original Battlefront 2. They may be bringing that into the game.
I haven't gotten Battlefront 2. I haven't. Yeah. With all the loot box drama, I just I ain't touching the game. Yeah.
And we mentioned that the Geonosis map, they said it was going to be bigger than the maps they've made. We didn't get to see it though. Although Ahsoka's not a playable character, we're going to get General Grievous, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Count Dooku, and Anakin. But we did say that there was a reason why they may not have brought Ahsoka in, because she was never represented in the movies. She was only in the Clone Wars and in Rebels. We never saw what she would look like in the movies. There was no actress that ever played her in live action. Not yet. Give Lucas time. They probably will have...
Oh, I'm sure Disney's going to eventually do it.
She's popular enough a character.
She's popular enough.
That they'll definitely do an Ahsoka movie.
She was popular enough for them to canonize her, so...
Mm-hmm. So after that, we got to see a sequel to a sort of a underground hit that they had called Unravel. So Unravel 2.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. I like the way I like the video for that. I like the way they showed that.
Yeah.
That was good. I enjoyed that part.
Yeah, where you can play by yourself. You can play the game by yourself, a la there's other platforming games that are similar to it that you can play by yourself.
Yeah, there's a lot of
games.
But
it also does co-op, and it looked interesting.
Yeah, it's meant for a co-op.
Yeah.
That's the point behind that game.
And
it's meant to be played with somebody else.
And they showed the trailer and they showed gameplay for it, and it's out now.
I liked the trailer for it. I like the music.
Yep. Yeah. It's part of their original EA Originals. Part of their EA Originals initiative, which is sort of where they own small indie companies to produce some games.
It was the one that they did after that really was like, okay, that was an attention grabber.
And Daniel says hi.
Hello.
Yep, he says hi.
It was the one after that one. What was it? The one
He says he wouldn't mind playing as an Ewok. Kind of reminds him of Gizmo from Gremlins.
Well, in that trailer, it was like you were being attacked by gremlins. That
Stormtrooper
gremlins. Yeah, it was. Look at those stormtroopers looking around, and that Ewok is flying out of that tree, and it's like, oh, you're so gone.
Yeah. The game, the Prison Break game, A Way Out, came out of EA Originals, and that was a big hit. That was a single-player game, too, and they also mentioned the guy at the Game Awards when he was talking there, and we were talking about when they had that really cringy moment talking to him at the Game Awards. They mentioned that. Again, this was EA being in full damage control over all the comments of, you know, them being downplaying the importance of single player and doubling down on microtransactions and loot boxes and all this stuff. This is them just being, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
Yeah.
Mode.
We'll be good. We'll be good. Just wait till next year. We'll be good.
So they saw that game was a big success for them. That was a big success for them. They saw it was making money. So I guess they're gonna double down on those kinds of games. A Way Out was multiplayer game, co-op. Where you play two guys who are trying to get out of prison, and it had this whole Shawshank Redemption-like story to it. It was very well made, very well received. And then you had commented on the next game that they talked about, which was Sea of Solitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I first heard the name, I immediately was like, "What is this? Sea of Thieves for something else? Like, what is this?" And then the woman comes on stage and she's trying to describe her game, and I'm like, "What is she talking about? This doesn't really make a lot of sense." And they were showing this flooded town thing on the wall behind her. Talking about how it's all about sadness and being a monster, and I'm like, "What in the world?" And then they showed some of it. They showed a trailer of it. It's like, oh, that is so creepy.
It represents loneliness by people turning into monsters when they are too lonely. Sort of a story about loneliness.
Sounds like your average internet troll. Your forum troll. It's like, yeah, that's about right.
And
but it was creepy. It was the animation style was just right to make that creepy.
It was definitely, I would say, Wind Waker.
Yeah, it was very Wind Waker-y, Breath of the Wild-y kind of art style. You know, that kind of almost cel-shaded kind of format where it's simpler graphics, but they can portray things in ways that you couldn't normally get away with in trying to make it full-on, you know, Battlefront style. There's a lot more they can do with that type of art, and it carried through. You had that really large character that was running. It's like the eyes. It's like, ooh, this is creepy.
Oh, Daniel, what we were talking about with the Star Wars stuff is, one, there's a Clone Wars update coming to Battlefront 2 that will add Geonosis as a large map, that will add General Grievous, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Count Dooku, and Anakin Skywalker as playable characters. And also Respawn Entertainment is working on a game called Jedi Fallen Order, which is set between episode 3 and 4. And it's about the dark time. That's a separate game set during the dark time. Basically, Jedi on the run, trying to keep from being found by Vader and the Inquisitors.
Yeah, you're about 2 years out from that game.
Yeah. And Clone Wars is
their estimate.
Clone Wars is something that the players of Battlefront 2 have been wanting for a while. They've been wanting Clone Wars stuff. The only thing that we're not getting is Ahsoka, because she was never represented in live action.
That's our theory as to why they didn't bring her out.
Yeah, she's a canon character because Clone Wars, the CG animated Clone Wars series, and Rebels are canon to Star Wars, but she was never represented in film in live action. So that's likely why we're not getting.
That's our theory why we're not getting her.
Yeah, that's our. And Lucas may bring Ahsoka into live action with a movie of her own, or they'll have her cameo in another movie, because they teased another film at the end of Solo, and they brought Darth Maul into the movie as the...
Give a spoiler alert.
I know, I should have given a spoiler alert, but they've been talking about it on the internet like crazy since then. So most people probably know. They brought Darth Maul in at the end of the film as the leader of the organized crime group that the main woman in the story belonged to.
The timeline between that, I think there's some time between that and when Rebels start. Star Wars Rebels. There's a number of years in between. There's room that they could put her in there. There's an amount of time where they can't kill Maul. He's got plot armor.
Yeah.
But there's an amount of time that they could insert a story, because her story through that part is undefined.
Yeah.
There's time in there to insert her into a movie.
Because
at that point.
Because between episode 1, well, we know where he was during the Clone Wars series. Mm-hmm. Then beyond that, we don't know where he was. Beyond that and Rebels. Because the last we saw him was Rebels. And he died during Rebels. And unless you've seen Rebels, you know what his fate is.
You know people are going to pit an Obi-Wan Kenobi
against Maul.
He's in it.
Yes, Darth Maul is in it. Darth Maul is in Battlefront 2.
They're going to go with going to want to definitely do their own version of a Maul versus Kenobi fight.
That'll be a younger Kenobi. They don't have the older Kenobi in it. Although they could.
People are going to pit a Kenobi versus Maul thing going on.
Yes. If they ever do an Ahsoka in the game, they should also do Savage Opress and also what's her name? Ventress.
Yeah.
Yes. So after the creepy Sea of Solitude,
yeah,
which that was really...
I did think good of that game though. It was just creepy. I liked it though.
Every game doesn't have to be super realistic. Doesn't have to be photoreal. Doesn't have to be super realistic. In a lot of cases, cell shading really works.
If done right,
to convey an atmosphere, to convey an emotion, cell shading works really good. That's why Studio Ghibli does cartoons or anime and not live action. So that looked really interesting.
Yeah,
that actually looked really interesting. After that, they talked about NBA Live, and that's coming September 7th. So of course we get another. They're releasing another NBA Live because, of course. Then they're doing another Madden. They're doing Madden 19. Then
nowhere near as much fanfare for both of those games combined.
Yeah.
The NBA and NFL ones combined still did not get as much fanfare as the FIFA.
Oh, FIFA's a way bigger game.
You can tell the difference. Both of them combined didn't get the same fanfare.
Madden was popular for them, but they're no nearly as popular for them as FIFA. FIFA's huge for EA.
I'm just saying you can tell the difference just by looking at by the way they did it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, we got these two things. Yeah. It was like almost an afterthought. Like, yeah, there's these two. Here you go. Next.
They just mentioned, oh, we're coming out with new Madden and NBA Live games. So
yeah, it was nothing to them. It's like, yeah, okay, here they are. Next. I mean,
that's
what it felt like.
Yeah, because they know all the attention's going to be on FIFA.
Okay.
Then something completely unexpected. A mobile Command & Conquer game. Command & Conquer Rivals.
So, Command & Conquer, when was the last time we saw a Command & Conquer game?
Oh, that was years ago with Command and Conquer Generals. That was years ago.
Because I know Command and Conquer used to be popular. What was it, back in
Command and Conquer used to be big, and it was big in the 90s.
Was it 90s? Okay.
Yeah, Command and Conquer was very big in the 90s. I remember where I once worked. It was in a call center. They would on the weekends they would play Command and Conquer while waiting for calls.
Mm-hmm. I never really played it in full. I played a little bit of one of the versions. One of the games is single player, and I think it was my first round at, kind of strategy.
I had Tiberian Sun. I had Command and Conquer Tiberian Sun.
I never played it very much, but
yeah. It was from Westwood Studios. It was originally from Westwood Studios.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same company that also made a RPG that I think needs to get a remake from EA. I think they need to make a remake of this.
Which
not
game?
Screw it up. Nox.
Which game?
It's sort of
game?
It's a Diablo-esque game that had a really interesting premise to it, where they had where you could only see what was from your character's perspective, and the rest of the map was blocked out as you moved through it. It was an interesting effect.
And so,
go on.
Well, I was going to say, but what they had was a mobile version of Command and Conquer, and
yes.
It was definitely different.
It's definitely different. They definitely did make some changes to the Command and Conquer formula for the mobile interface.
Yeah.
And what you did was you built up your forces and you collected resources, and you launched units. And what you had to do is take control of a missile silo.
Control point. Yeah. You took a control point you fought over.
A control point. And when you take over
the missile, you're toward the other guy.
Yep. When you control it for a certain amount of time, and it builds up, you get to launch the nuclear missile at your opponent's base. And when you hit them twice, it takes them out.
Yeah.
So
it's sort of kind of a cross between strategy and whatnot, and then sort of a deathmatch kind of mode, kind of implied by the way it worked. It's kind of a quick round, combat death mode sort of thing.
Yeah. And Daniel, no, they did not do any. They did not show. They basically just spoke to one of the developers from Respawn Entertainment for Jedi Fallen Order. They didn't have any gameplay or anything.
They had nothing. Yeah,
they had nothing.
There was nothing for it.
Yep, they didn't have anything.
And it's way too early. You're looking at not the fall of this year, but the fall of 2019. So they're way too early.
Yeah. It's been years since I played a Command and Conquer game. Years. I had Tiberian Sun. I didn't even think it would run on Windows 10.
I'll be honest with you though. Looking at the Command and Conquer game, I think they just picked the name. They had the rights to the name. They could have really put any name on that game, and it would have been anything.
Yeah, they did it as brand recognition, because it was an IP they had that's just basically sitting there collecting dust.
Because people go, oh, look, it's Command and Conquer, and that you could have put any name on that game, and it would have been the same game.
Yeah. And
so
they announced
just more rebranding it that rather than really reviving Command and Conquer.
Yeah.
I think that's what I was pulling from it. It's like, this isn't really Command and Conquer. This is just a regular phone mobile kind of strategy attack game. They just stuck the name on it and said, oh, looky, Command and Conquer. It's bad. It's like, well, yeah, kind of, sort of.
Sort of, kind of.
Sort of, kind of.
No mention of microtransactions, or also whether or not you...
Yeah, I wondered about that. They didn't say yay, but they didn't say nay.
Or whether you paid money for more time to play, like they did with Dungeon Keeper Mobile.
I think that's the one to watch, because in looking at the whole conference, they were uncharacteristically for that conference silent about that topic on that game. Yeah, they didn't say yay, but they didn't say nay either. So that's one to watch that might wind up getting.
Often it's what they don't say that speaks the loudest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was noticeable because almost most of the games in there that it could have applied to, they definitely said not doing that. On that one, that's the kind of game that you definitely would expect it, and they didn't say anything about it. And they didn't say it was, but they also didn't say it wasn't.
Yes.
I noticed that. I noticed that about that game.
Another thing they also talked about briefly was Play to Give, which was sort of their charity, and they
those charities were interesting too. Like
they're all mostly anti-bullying charities.
How's that supposed to work? But I was looking at those, trying to figure out how do you have an anti-bullying charity. I was sitting there pondering more of that than anything else when I was looking at it.
They fund things like education, and also they probably also lobby for anti-bullying laws in countries, things like that.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't like bullies anyway, so, but I was just sitting there thinking, as long as it's not, social justice warrior style stuff, I couldn't tell by looking at it if it was or wasn't.
Yeah.
And I just don't know anything about them, so I'm not going to say one way or the other. I just thought it was like, it wasn't what I was expecting when they were talking about charity stuff.
It didn't feel much like that. I felt tiny twinges of it, but I didn't feel that there was too much of that in this whole thing.
I'm not going to say, I'm not going to sit here and say they are. I don't know them, so I can't say it, but I just was looking at it going, what are these? Question mark? Because when they said charity, there's the usual, like the cancer or some other kind of, big name charities. And it was like, okay, these are interestingly different. You don't ever hear normally. So it's like, okay, well, if they're a good cause and they're not being all SJW on everybody and legitimately trying to help somehow, I'm not sure how, but okay, that's kind of cool, I think, maybe. I don't know enough to say one way or the other.
Yeah. Dennis, going back to the Respawn thing, I think they made the announcement of the game not that long ago, so I don't think there's that much to show.
Yeah.
They might have a trailer for Gamescom later.
When they talked about it, the guy wasn't even on stage. He just he was just in the audience, and the host just sort of sat down next to him and kind of gave him a shout out and said, oh yeah, there's this other thing that we're kind of working on over here on the side. We'll get back to you in a couple of years with it, but they didn't give any details on it hardly. He just said basically kind of the dark times between episodes 3 and 4.
Yeah.
And they really didn't go much more than that. It was actually very short.
Another thing
shout out.
Another thing EA did not mention at all is the Star Wars game that Visceral had been working on, that they moved out of Visceral and to their own studios. No mention at all of that game. And it's a Star Wars title.
Could this be what they were working on? Or is that a different company?
It's possible they may have shunted it over to Respawn, and this might be it.
There's no way to confirm that.
There's no way to confirm that.
It makes you wonder, because they had a lost Star Wars game, and then suddenly this one, this one kind of pops up. It's like, are these the same, or is this different stuff? And what happened to the other one if it is different?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they may be different productions.
I get the impression it's different.
Yeah, because the one that Visceral was working on was going to be more like Star Wars 1313, which was the last game that Lucasfilm was working on before they were bought out before they were shut down after the Disney purchase of Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. There's no way to confirm if this is the same game or not.
It's just a guess, just based on nothing.
Yeah,
So-
it's just a guess.
But I kind of feel like maybe it wasn't though. I'm kind of leaning against my own guess. I guess.
Yeah, I think that we're not too much in sports games, so we're not talking too much about the FIFA and Madden. And the bulk of the show, the last end of the show, was all taken up by Anthem.
Yeah.
And basically what I saw from that, basically they were saying, oh, you can do single player. And this, you can go it alone and play it single player. Basically, it's a Destiny clone. They were trying not to say, they were trying to say it in a way that didn't make it look and sound like a Destiny clone, but it's essentially a Destiny clone. But sorta, kinda.
Yeah.
But probably will attract Destiny players to it because it doesn't have loot boxes. It will have
I think they
cosmetic
they definitely
microtransactions, but no pay to win and no loot boxes.
said- yeah, they basically they went. That was another one they went out of the way to say that with.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was a running theme throughout the entire concept of the whole loot box issue.
Yeah.
They got spanked, and they know it.
Yeah, they were definitely, they definitely toned that. It was a very, this was definitely a tone, except for when they got into FIFA, it was a toned down conference. It was not as polished and as professional, I would say professional.
It wasn't as shiny.
It wasn't as shiny as their previous press conferences.
It was
with-
effective. They delivered their message. They got the
Yeah.
details out. They gave you what you were looking for, but it wasn't over the top.
Yeah.
The over the top stuff stopped like within the first 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Once they did their giant little intro thing, they pretty much went low key from that point out.
Yeah, it was definitely lower key, more
Mhm.
subdued, less shiny, you said,
Yeah.
sort of press conference. Because they definitely did get spiked. They definitely did get
Spanked.
humbled by
Yes.
what happened. Because they had the gamers breathing them down their necks. They had lawmakers here breathing down their necks. And now they've got like threat of jail time in which country was that?
Like, try to enforce that, but it would be interesting.
In Europe, there was a threat of
Something
jail
in Europe.
time because of
Europe takes a lot of that stuff a little more seriously.
yeah, because of loot boxes over in Europe, and also one of the countries there saying that loot boxes were gambling. Yeah, they got spanked this year. EA got pretty spanked this year, and they're trying to be a little more low key.
There was a lot of damage control.
Yeah,
And I think he even just the president, was it the CEO, just practically stopped the conference to address it at one point.
mm-hmm.
There was this point where it was in relationship to one of the games, but he just sort of at one point nearly stopped the whole thing just to stop and talk about that briefly.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
they had to address it. There was a lot of damage control.
Yes. So it's a shared world. You can play it single player, or you can play it with other people. So essentially, it's
looked
more
nice.
it's more in vein of a Destiny clone. That it's more like, I want to say not like Destiny, more so than it is like Warframe. I would say more of a Warframe clone, but it's also a single player. It's weird. Won't really know until we get to actually play
the way
this
they
thing.
described it was a single player story.
Yeah.
You have your own, I hate to say this word, personal narrative,
Yeah.
but you played in a shared world with other people though. Everything was, you interacted with other people. Was this the one that had going on about the effects of the world?
Yes.
The environments and stuff
where the
would all affect you significantly. Like you'd have these. They mentioned weather a lot.
Shaper storms that changed the landscape.
Yeah, they were talking about that a lot, where you had these massive storms, and that's why you needed these suits to survive. And everybody sees that it's all in sync. So if there's a massive, crazy storm that's, you know, knocking you all over the place, everybody else around you is experiencing the same thing, and you're out there doing whatever mission you're on. But you go back to a different kind of an area, and you have your single story narrative that's telling your individual story.
Yeah, so you basically have these instanced areas which are for you, and then there are these areas that are a persistent world.
Yeah, that everybody's experiencing, and everything, the weather and all that synchronized so that everyone experiences.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which sounds a lot like the new big multiplayer area that they have in Warframe. There's a whole big, massive multiplayer environment in Warframe, and it sounds an awful lot like that.
So that's pretty much how they had set that up.
Yeah. So
it looks good too.
Yeah. So we got to look a little bit of a look at the story for the game. Sort of a humanity trying to survive in this world. Sort of story. Big enemy wanting to try and destroy them. Thing. BioWare has been known for their good stories.
Yeah, the expectation is it'll have a really good storyline to it.
Up until Mass Effect Andromeda, of course.
Yeah.
But BioWare has been known for their good stories.
There's an expectation that the game will have a good story to it.
Yeah. The suits are called javelins, and there are different classes of them. It's basically introducing classes without really introducing classes.
Yeah, what I saw it as is it's almost like in the way that you can do a class change in Final Fantasy, where you swap out a weapon and you're a different class. Where this is like you swap out a suit, and so you're now that sort of suit class.
Yeah.
Because you can change suits, and your character is not tied to being one class, which is what the suits are, a class.
Yeah.
That you can swap out and then head out into the field as a different class. You go out in the field and you're heavy or whatever. You come back and you can go be one of was the Ranger? Was one of them or something?
Yeah, you get character customization. You play as a freelancer, which is sort of a mercenary. Mercenary / scavenger / explorer sort of character, and you can get multiple suits. The classes are Ranger, Colossus, Interceptor, and Storm. They didn't talk much about Interceptor and Storm, but they talked about the Ranger is more of a ranged combat class in melee, and Colossus was heavy weapons. Big, heavy, and bulky, and you can fly and swim in all of them.
Yeah.
So these suits can fly. You're not stuck to the ground. You can actually lift off and fly around the environment in these suits.
Yeah, and even
Iron Man
underwater
style.
Yeah.
Even underwater. And of course, you can change the look of the javelin. They did talk about that. They would have, again,
customization options and stuff for it.
Customization options. They would have microtransactions in the game for cosmetics. No loot boxes, no pay to win. They said that right out. They didn't allude to anything there. They said that right off the bat.
They made that one clear. That was one they were crystal clear on. They kind of needed it. That was the one that I think people were probably the most worried about the version of.
Yeah. Yep.
That was probably the one they were most nervous about.
Yeah, that's the one they were the most nervous about, because also I think BioWare's fate is basically tied into this game, because Mass Effect is a huge title for them. It's almost as big as the Dragon Age games. Probably even bigger than the Dragon Age games. And they just dropped the ball when it came to Mass Effect Andromeda. And it was a big loss for them. So if this doesn't meet expectations, if the game doesn't meet expectations, they could go the way of Maxis and Visceral and
it can tank them.
All the others. It could tank them. EA would shut them down. They've shut down large studios before that they owned. And said that you can swim and fly. The co-op was completely optional in the gameplay. Gameplay looked pretty interesting. They showed a little bit of a multiplayer gameplay. It looked interesting. It did look interesting. A lot more interesting than any of the gameplay I saw from Destiny. I've seen plenty of Destiny gameplay. It looked similar to that, but it also looked a lot like the gameplay from Warframe that I played. So, definitely...
It's not a precise one. It has to be different.
Yeah, it did definitely look interesting. And the game will be available February 22nd, so it'll be available next year, or early next year, for consoles and PC. There's no version for the Switch. No version for the Nintendo Switch. And that's where they ended their press conference on Anthem. So, what were the things that you thought stood out the most?
To me?
Yeah, to you.
Well, like I said earlier, the whole loot box theme or the no loot box theme that the whole conference had.
Yeah.
As far as games, I think I'm not the biggest shooter player, so a lot of those didn't really, I thought they looked nice, but they didn't really grab my attention.
Yeah.
The one that really kind of stood out to me was that Sea of
Tranquility?
No, it wasn't Tranquility.
Oh, Sea of Solitude.
Sea of Solitude. I thought that was the most unique among the ones that we saw.
Yeah.
That and the Unravel were very unique.
Unravel 2.
Yeah.
That's a 2.
They stood
2 in the
out
number
to me
2.
Yeah. They stood out to me because they were so different than everything else. Everything else was sort of shooters and sports. Those were not, and they stood out because of it.
Yeah.
Everything else was some iteration of a sports game or some iteration of a shooter game for the most part. Those were not, and to me, that's why they stood out.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why a lot of people have been flocking to indie games. Why indie games have seen
genre fatigue.
Yeah, genre fatigue. Because I've noticed that there has been what I call shooter fatigue for Call of Duty and the Battlefield games. They're still selling big time, but I've noticed that
there's a demand for something different.
The players have been more critical of them not making the gameplay innovative enough, not really making any inroads.
They're just carbon copies of their prior incarnations. With new skins and new graphics, and everything else is about the same thing for the most part.
It showed big time when Call of Duty went to Infinity Warfare right after Advanced Warfare. You had Advanced Warfare with high-tech soldiers with powered exosuits and jetpacks and everything, and then you're going to more of that with jetpacks, soldiers with jetpacks and fighters going into orbit and everything, and they wanted more boots on the ground sort of action, and less high flying sort of high tech stuff. And I think that's why they went back to World War II, which was where Call of Duty started.
Yeah.
With World War II, but there hasn't been any.
I think there people what people are looking for is something different, something unique, something new, something that is not the same old carbon copy. It's not like you're saying, well, these games have to go away, nobody likes them. It's just, does every game have to be that?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, can't we have a variety of stuff, not just one style of play, but multiple styles? And you know, and I think, like I said, to me, that's why Unravel and Sea of Sadness, or I keep forgetting that word, Sea of what was it? Sea of
Solitude. Sea of Solitude.
Sea of Solitude stick out is because they were so different. And then Sea of Solitude made its own impression
Yeah.
on me. I was like, ooh, that's kind of freaky.
Mm-hmm.
It made an impression for me. and so I was like, so not only did it stand out because it was different, it stood out because of its own merits. And to me, that was what I think, for me, you know, kind of stuck out a lot.
Yeah.
Everything else is pretty much what you would just sort of expect.
Yeah. It's
And the tone was different than what you would have expected, but
definitely
those
a
are the things
different
that stood
tone.
out. Yeah. For me, those are the things that really stuck out kind of loudly.
I think because the game is trying to make a statement about loneliness and human interactions.
Mm-hmm.
And Unravel 2, that is where, you know, two people have to work together.
And notice there's sort of a mirror opposite to each other in a way.
Yeah.
One's very bright and very cheerful and very hopeful, and the other one's sort of dark. It's almost the opposite emotion.
Yeah.
And they were back to back, and it's funny because they were back to back, and one is very lighthearted, companionship, and the other one's of loneliness and misery and darkness and trying to overcome that.
Yeah.
So they were very opposite to each other, and they were two different studios in two different games, but they were reflecting each other in kind of a strange way. It was really interesting. It really stood out. It was the contrast between them that kind of stuck out there. It was really interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting, the contrast between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you had that interesting where they were going through the map and you had this turkey chasing them, trying to eat one of them.
Yeah.
that was pretty interesting. So that looked like it would be fun. Unravel 2 looked like it would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And the Sea of Solitude, that looked creepy.
That looked creepy.
Yeah, the sort of Wind Waker-ish, cell-shaded graphics added to that.
Added to it big time. It gave it a surreal look that just amplified the theme.
And there's a lot you can do with cell-shaded animation. There's a lot you can do with that.
Yeah.
That you can't do with live action.
You can get away with some unique tricks.
Yeah.
So those are what stood out for me.
I mean, I've seen some interesting stuff done with cell-shaded animation and cell-shaded games. I've seen a lot of interesting stuff done.
There's a fluidity that they have that is very easy to have a high frame rate on.
Mm-hmm.
So it causes it to have a unique look because of its usually high frame rate.
Yeah.
Even the old Wind Waker game had a feel of having a high frame rate. So there's animations in it that an almost cartoony kind of feel that gives it a different vibe.
Yeah.
Because of that seemingly high frame rate.
Yep. I think for me, what stood out a lot was a lot of the same thing. Unravel 2, that looked really fun. And the Sea of Solitude, that looked interesting and it was creepy. I mean,
it was a memorable thing.
The character, her way she looked, very anime-ish, and with those glowing red eyes and the whole dark environment. It was almost Lovecraftian in a way. In a way, where it was very dark, very creepy, very somber environment. It's very Lovecraftian in a lot of ways. I like that they're bringing Clone Wars stuff over to Battlefront 2, and that they are, that despite the rumored leaks, that they are not abandoning the game. And Although again, it's more shooter. It's more shooter and everything. Anthem looks like it might actually be a pretty good game, as long as they don't screw it up.
As long as they don't screw it up, it's on a good track.
Yeah, looks like it's going to be along a good track, and I think they understand that they can't mess this up.
Yeah,
because Destiny 2 represents what this game could be if they went that direction. If they screwed it up, if they added pay to win, if they added those
it would be
loot boxes, the paid loot boxes and everything, it would be a mess. And you know, Bungie used to be a really beloved game developer. They made Halo for the Xbox. They were once the darlings of the gaming industry. Now, Halo for a PC gamer, PC FPS gamer, is sort of generic. You know, it's not something it isn't anything we've ever seen before. But on the console side, they've never seen games like that before. They've never seen an FPS game like that at that time. Well, we're used to games like that. But the console players never had games like that. And so they made FPS games playable on consoles. It started with...
The first Halo got the formula right on that platform when they first started.
They built upon what was done with GoldenEye on the N64, and they perfected it more on the Xbox. On the Xbox 360. And then they got out from under Microsoft's thumb, went on their own. The Halo franchise stayed, and 343 Games took over the Halo franchise. And then they started working on their first game by themselves, which was the original Destiny. And the original Destiny did okay. Wasn't great. Wasn't terrible. It did okay. They got into bed with Activision. And now Destiny 2 is like every possible bad thing EA has brought into games, all mashed together. The loot boxes, the pay to win, the predatory business practices, and the response to the backlash from gamers has been, I don't know who is making the decisions there at Bungie, and I think it might be Bobby Kotick more than anything. He doesn't handle criticism very well. I think it may be the Activision CEO, Bobby Kotick, that's behind a lot of it. But he doesn't handle criticism very well, and they've been responding to the criticism pretty childishly over there at Bungie, and it's sort of sad because they were once a beloved company, and now they're almost hated more than EA is, and it's pretty sad. I mean, it's what it is. It's sad.
I think what's happened is, I think what's kind of come of light is people are tired of being taken advantage of. It's happened a lot, and they've come to the realization these were taking advantage of them, and they're kind of mad about it. And they've been letting them know of their displeasure of not being. Things cost enough in the game industry. You know, $60 game here, $60 game there, 20 here, 20 there, 23, 20 here, there. And then you got add-ons and DLCs, and it's like, these are gamers. Some of them, you know, have limited amount of time. Limited, you know, they work, they got family. They don't got time. They can't pour that kind of money into them.
Yeah.
And you got an industry trying to milk you for every dime. There's a limit to how much they can pay, and you're stealing their enjoyment for them because they can't cross those lines.
Yeah.
And so people have said enough. They finally just put their foot down. Had enough. They can't do it. You're wanting more than we can give.
It's been building for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and it finally took a game that was from a really beloved franchise, which is the Battlefront franchise. It took EA doing what they did with it, Battlefront 2, to trigger the awakening of the gaming community.
You know, they crossed that threshold far enough. Well, not just the gaming community, the rest, everybody else.
Well,
You know,
when they woke up and they just started the backlash against it, it caught the attention of mainstream news.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It left the gaming world and it entered the larger world, and that you don't want to make that kind of drama.
No.
The game industry doesn't need that kind of drama, and they created that kind of drama, and it caused a big mess.
Yeah, because you had the state of Hawaii, which is blowing up right now. You had the state of Hawaii wanting to pass a law to make it illegal to sell games with loot boxes to minors.
Hawaii got so mad they blew their staff.
You have several other states that are looking at legislation. You have a couple of countries saying that loot boxes are gambling, and one is even threatening jail time for companies that don't change their games to reflect that ruling. And you have the rest of Europe looking at the possibility. The rest of Europe and the EU in total.
The thing about the EU,
looking at the possibility of making them either heavily regulated or illegal.
The thing about the EU is if they get mad enough, they can, the way the EU is structured, they can shut a company out, and basically you're locked out. If they decide to close the door on you, that's it. You're just SOL.
Yeah.
And that they can't afford that. That's their big market.
Mm-hmm. And
so they can't afford it.
The EU has some very strict consumer protection laws. They have some incredibly strict consumer protection laws. And they also recently did the GDPR. I think I pronounced that right, which is their massive privacy laws reform. And Daniel had to go to PT Tech Authority and redo a lot of the I think he had to redo a lot of the scripts. He had to work on the web pages because of it, and he said he had to go through all this documentation and everything, look at this documentation in order to make the website compliant to GDPR. Because if you're serving European users and you don't comply with GDPR, you can either get hit with millions in fine, or 10% of your, or you can get hit with a fine that's 10% of your I think it's of your yearly income. I forget. I know that Google's got a ruling against them, and they could potentially owe the EU $9 billion in fines. It's $9 billion in fines.
They'll feel that one in the morning.
They'll feel that one. That's a ouch in the wallet. I mean, a few million, that's pocket change to companies like Google.
They lose that much change in the couch easy.
They lose that much operating YouTube daily. But 9 billion. Yeah, that's a lot. That's more than pocket change.
They'll notice that.
I mean that's like huge amounts of money. That's like 10 times more than a million, or 9 million. That's like big. Well, I wouldn't say 10 times more than 9 million, but it's big. That's a lot of money. That's a big chunk of change.
Okay.
Yeah, then it says that the new rule says you essentially have to state that the users must consent before you start collecting any data from them, and if you don't comply with there's a series of rules that you have to comply with about data, and they're very strict. And if you don't comply with any of them, you can get hit with some fines that could cripple or even destroy your company. They are deadly serious about this right now, because of this year, actually early this year and all of last year, there were some really big leaks on the internet because of data leaks. That a lot of people's personal data got
stuck out there on the internet. You there?
Yeah, he said that Google's ads had to be non-targeted for EU users to be compliant. They couldn't be targeted. They couldn't be targeted ads unless they consented to have data collected in order to fines up to 24 million or 10% of your, I think it's 10% of your annual income. And yeah, 24 million or 10% of your annual income. And the last figure that I watched, the WAN show from Linus Tech Tips, the last figure that Google is being fined by the EU is 9 billion. So wow.
Well, unless you're at those kinds of numbers, most of these companies don't bother. They don't feel it.
Most companies, I mean, Apple makes that much money in a couple of days.
That's what I'm saying. For some of these companies, unless it's something at that level, they don't care.
Yeah.
They'll just pay it and move on. And that's why the numbers have gotten so extravagantly high, is in order to make the companies actually pay attention to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So today was just EA, Electronic Arts, and as I said before, I'm pretty. As in game journalism, I have to be fair to them. At least I don't like EA, and I've been very outspoken as to why I don't like EA, and I think a lot of people understand why I don't like EA, and you don't like EA either. But you have reasons to not like them because of SimCity, Spore. For me, it's what they did to Dungeon Keeper and what they did to Spore and everything else. They have to really prove and demonstrate to me that they're changing. They did a little bit here, but they really need to prove it.
The only reason they changed things is because of the
they were made to.
They were forced to, not because they were being what's the word? Nice. They did it because they got spanked.
Yeah. They did it because they got spanked. They got whipped pretty good.
They get whipped really good, and that's the only reason they straightened up. And even I feel this will last as long as the burners turned up. The minute the eyes move away and it calms down, they'll be back.
Daniel says, fair to EA? Nah, EA should be slapped with a wet fish.
Get in line. Get in line.
Get in line. But, okay. So, here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow, we're not going to have a pre-show. We are going to go straight to our impressions after the press conferences tomorrow, which are, and I keep forgetting what's coming. Okay, we got Microsoft, we've got Bethesda, and we have Devolver Digital. And Microsoft, we're really looking forward to that.
This is the first time I've actually been interested in watching something from Microsoft.
Well, you watched the EA one because I asked you to be in the show with me, and you watched.
Well, I've never actually looked forward to seeing what they have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know what's going to be there. I don't know if what I'm looking for is going to be there. But if it's going to be anywhere, it's going to be there.
Spoiler alert: we're looking for No Man's Sky.
And to see if it shows up or not.
Because the Waking Titan ARG has been really building up, and they've had this countdown going. It's counting down to E3. It's supposedly counting down to E3. I haven't seen it.
I haven't looked at it lately.
Daniel says he's looking forward to Microsoft's E3 as well. But No Man's Sky is coming to the Xbox One X. And it's going to get some enhancements. Plus, it's going to have the Next update. Now, the No Man's Sky Next is their latest update. They had so far, and they didn't have to do any of this. After launch, they released the Foundation update, the Pathfinder update, the Atlas Rises, and now they're going to have Next. And they released all these updates for free. And so PC users are going to get the update for free on the same day that the
July
full game's
24th, I believe it is.
Yeah, July 24th, on the same day that it launches for Xbox One X players.
And 505 Games is publishing the Xbox edition.
Yeah, 505 Games. They are the publishers for... What do they publish?
They do a lot of other games, but I don't know off the top of my head what they have.
A lot of indie games. I want to say they are the publishers for. Let me see, 505 Games.
I want to go ahead and state it again, just because I can.
Portal Knights. That's a good game. I like that one.
Okay.
Memories of Mars.
But I want to say that I think, maybe I'm wrong, maybe not. If they do show up, I don't know.
Pillars of Eternity, also. That's a big one.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Yeah.
That Next will not be just a year, because it's been a year since Atlas Rises came out.
Yeah.
And that people think that, okay, Next is going to be big just because it's been a year in development. But I have the feeling that this is going to be 4 years worth of content, not 1 year's worth of content. Because back in 2014, before it ever came out, 2 years before it came out, he was talking about No Man's Sky, and he said, among other things, it's not everything's going to be available at launch. He goes, and then there's this other thing that we're not going to talk about. That's multiplayer. That's going to come later, and it's really big. And when you look at that, you're like, he's talking about Next, but that was 2014 before No Man's Sky even came out. So I have a feeling that Next won't represent 1 year's worth of content. It's going to represent nearly 4 years of development. It's going to be way bigger than I think people are anticipating.
And there was someone who had a tour of No Man's Sky's office. Hello Games offices. And there was a build of No Man's Sky running on this machine over here on the side.
They basically said, we can't show you that.
Yeah, they said, we can't show you that. And
there's evidence of something else that they've been working on with No Man's Sky, and this seems to be it, and it's way bigger.
Yeah.
It's been worked on much more. So it's going to be way bigger than people think.
That's the other game I was thinking of, Payday. 505 does the Payday game. Payday games are pretty popular on Steam. Okay, so
I just want to be able to do that. If it's really huge, I want to be able to go, called it.
Because if they've been working on this for 4 years instead of the 1 year that a lot of people think they were working on it, they've been working on this ever since the game actually launched.
Before the game launched.
Where Sony pushed them out the door too early.
Yeah.
I know they pushed them out too early because we found out that they had an exclusivity contract with Sony for the PS4.
They mentioned it. Yeah.
When they do that, in those exclusivity contracts, one, Sony's in charge of the marketing for the games that have exclusivity and timed exclusivity contracts. Second, Sony has control over when the game launches. They will give extensions if the game needs to be delayed, but they determine when the game launches. So that is why No Man's Sky launched in the state that it did. And
yeah,
I
don't. Go ahead.
What Hello Games should have done is when they launched the game on Steam, instead of launching it as a finished game, they should have launched it as early access.
They should have put it in as early access. I don't think they could have though, because I think that would have conflicted with the idea that it's a full game on the PS4.
Yeah,
that's the way it was being sold.
That's probably the reason why.
That's probably why it didn't get put in there that way.
Yeah.
And when Sean Murray was talking about all these features, at the time he was talking about them, those were probably slated to be in that release, but they couldn't make it in time because of being forced out early. But everything he said was in what they were working on.
And where was the recent interview where he said he felt like he was losing control of the project?
That was in the New Yorker article.
Yeah.
And it talks about the flood. It talks about the issues that were going on at launch. And it was a New Yorker article where he said he felt like the game was that he could tell that the hype was getting out of control.
Yeah.
He could tell that it was slipping away from it.
Yeah.
So he knew there was a problem. He just didn't address it properly.
Yeah. But it's a big deal, and they've been dropping a lot of hints in the ARG, in the Waking Titan ARG recently, because we recently got, what happened is we saw ships, what looked like ships being built, a new kind of capital ship.
Yeah.
And also,
or at least different models, if not being built. It looks like it's being built to me, though.
Yeah. Also,
like these are different stages of it.
Some people who figured out the ARG, they found cover art for the game on the No Man's Sky website that shows 4 players, and we got confirmation from the Wear dev kit sent out for the ARG that we will have player models, customizable player models.
And as of today, Ringed Planet confirmed.
Yep, Ringed Planet. So they've been slow. They use the ARG. The ARG is to tell the lore of the game, the background lore, that it's a computer simulation, sort of like the Matrix, and where the players who play the game are the people stuck in it. Yeah, and they built up this whole lore about it.
Yeah. As I said before, the ARG serves as lore book storyline, the way that you would see lore books in Skyrim and Elder Scrolls. The ARG is that kind of material for No Man's Sky to tell the backstory or outside story to it that the game can't tell within.
Yep. So there is that for tomorrow at the Microsoft conference, and they'll show some other stuff. They're likely going to show, which was teased by Amazon Canada, likely going to show the next Halo game.
When it comes to Amazon and information about games, kind of like drip, 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 drip.
I think that was staged. That whole thing where
I think
the page popped up with a bunch of game names. I think that was staged. Because the timing of it was just too suspicious. I think a lot of that they do stage a lot of those leaks. And then we got the teaser trailer for Fallout 76, which is coming in, which we'll get more details of at Bethesda's conference tomorrow. That's what I'm really wanting to look at too, along with No Man's Sky from Microsoft's conference, is Fallout 76.
Project.
I think Fallout 76, it could have a multiplayer co-op mode, but I think Fallout 76. It's not going to be a it's not going to be a Fallout Battle Royale. It's not going to be a Fallout Rust clone or Daisy clone. It's going to be a RPG. It's going to be to Fallout 4 what New Vegas was to Fallout 3, except it will have likely an optional co-op mode. It could have an optional co-op mode. There's no reason why they couldn't have it. If they're getting away from the Gamebryo engine and moving on to maybe something like the ID Tech engine, they're moving to the engine for Doom, the latest Doom game, then they could do the multiplayer better. Or it could be a separate multiplayer mode for the game. They could definitely do that. It could be a separate multiplayer mode. Don't know. We won't know until tomorrow. And then they're gonna talk about Rage 2, which I'm pretty interested in. That Rage 2 trailer, that looked interesting. Open world Rage game. The first Rage game was okay, but it needed more content. It beyond the single player campaign for the original Rage, there really wasn't that much to do after you finished the single player campaign. Not much to do after that, except race. So I think they're still going to have the vehicles in it, but I don't think the emphasis is going to be so much on the racing aspect as it did before. And also we're going to find out finally what the heck Starfield is. Is it...
That'll be interesting to see what that is.
Yeah. Is it really this sci-fi game that they've been working on that's supposedly somewhat No Man's Sky-esque, which based on the description we've heard, or is that smokescreen, and have they been working on Elder Scrolls 6 this entire time? And they've just been saying, oh, we're working on this sci-fi game just to fool people, because they know that, you know, people are going to be watching for Elder Scrolls 6, and the way things are right now, where leaks drip out like through a sieve, and even movie companies have gotten good at either giving their people fake scripts, giving out fake scripts on set,
fake trailers.
They did that with Infinity War. They did that with Rogue One. They did that with Force Awakens.
Maybe the video game industry starting to take a page out of their book.
Yes, they're doing all that. So it could be Starfield is a sci-fi game, or it could be that Starfield is just a code name for Elder Scrolls 6. We're also likely going to get a little bit of a look at Somerset for ESO. They'll briefly talk about it because it came out around the same time. I'm going to be getting that next month. And what else? There's Starfield, Fallout 76, ESO stuff, Rage 2. Really interested in looking at that. They've got a few other studios working with them. They may have some other stuff to show as well. Bethesda's becoming big. They're getting pretty big.
Yeah, that's kind of makes me a little nervous that they're too big. Yeah. Sometimes when you get past a certain point, the bureaucracy of trying to hold it all together can get in the way of the game stuff.
To try and keep them from growing too large, they did splinter off their business division, their business side over into ZeniMax. They split that off.
Yeah,
And then
there's dangers in becoming too big.
The publishing side, they split that off into Bethesda software. Yeah, they split that off into a separate company, and then they split off Bethesda Game Studios, the game development side. So they did do that to keep themselves from inflating too big, or them getting too big. I think they recognize, you know, it's a problem if we start becoming too big. Let's separate these other parts out into separate companies, so that we don't get too large.
I think it's like they basically divide and conquer. You know.
Yeah.
Separate themselves out and be able to be streamlined game company.
Yep. And then after that,
time they do that.
Then after that, you better get high, because Devolver Digital is doing their press conference after Bethesda, and you'd have to be high to be able to understand those, because the last time it was strange. I mean, the last time I saw something that bizarre.
Like, pass the peace pipe, man.
I know, it's like, holy crap. And Devolver Digital has been involved in doing a lot of interesting indie stuff. They do some very high profile indie games. They do some very popular indie games. So
interesting to see what they have.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they've got. Again, as I said, it's going to be strange. If it's anything like last year, it's going to be strange. And then the day after that, then we get see, we have Microsoft and Bethesda tomorrow. Then we get Square Enix, Ubisoft, the PC Gaming Show, and Sony's press conference. We get 4 on Monday. And I'm really looking forward to the PC Gaming Show, because that's been growing year to year. It started out in a small venue, then it grew into a larger one, and I think it's going to get bigger this year. Square Enix, I'm sort of interested in seeing what they're going to do, because they may have the next game in the Just Cause franchise. So that was another one that was teased. Don't know if we're going to get a new Deus Ex or a DLC for the new Deus Ex. I don't know. So I'm not really sure what all we're going to see. Hopefully we also get to see a little bit of what they've been doing with Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, so at least if they're not finished, some sort of progress on how it's looking. Maybe a new updated trailer or something.
Yeah.
Kind of at least give us a sense that the game is still alive.
Yes, at least that. Then Ubisoft, we're going to get another Just Dance, of course. And also we're going to see probably The Division 2 from them, and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. We may see a little bit of that from them. I'm not sure what else we might see. I'd be surprised. PC Gaming Show, I'm very interested in that, because I'm hoping that we'll get to see more dual universe. I am hoping, because they need to do this. Star Citizen the guys behind Star Citizen, they need to launch Squadron 42. They need to get that out the door. They need to stop working on features and new technology and actually just get what they've got working and out the door.
Turn it from a fancy tech demo to an actual working game.
Because right now it's a fancy tech demo, and they need to make it a working game, because their fans have been not too happy with them lately.
Yeah.
And they really need to turn it around. They need to demonstrate that they're not doing this. I don't think they're doing it maliciously. I don't think Chris Roberts is doing it to rip people off. I think he's just suffering from Peter Molyneux syndrome. He's just trying to deliver more than he's capable of. And he just needs to focus on what he's got, improve what he's got, and get it out into people's hands.
Yeah.
And then the Sony press conference, and what we might see there. Now we're likely to see Days Gone, and the big thing at the Sony conference is Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding. Gonna definitely see a trailer for that. Definitely see new updates from at maybe him and Guillermo del Toro, or him and Norman Reedus will come out on stage to talk about the game. And then also The Last of Us 2. We may finally get some information on that. Also in the tomorrow in the Microsoft thing, we might get some information on the next Crackdown game, which from the announcement that recently came, it's being delayed yet again. So it should have come out years ago, and it's delayed again. It's like the game that will never come out.
Got a bit of a Duke Nukem syndrome going on there.
But going back to Sony, yeah, we'll likely see The Last of Us. We'll likely see more of Days Gone, which I think is the zombies in Days Gone. I think are less like undead, and they're more like the 28 Days Later sort of zombies, where they're alive but zombified. And not sure what else we might see from Sony. They're sort of a wild card. But I've heard that they've got a few other exclusives coming. And there's also going to be some overlap too, but they will definitely talk about Battlefield 5. In fact,
there was mention in the one today that there would be things that would show up in other conferences.
They did that before with Battlefield 1, where they showed a little bit in the EA conference, and then they showed a lot more in the Sony conference. So
it could be a little bit of that.
See a lot more for Battlefield 5 in the Sony conference. We might see a lot more for Battlefront 2. Maybe something from Respawn Entertainment's Star Wars game. I wouldn't put my hopes up.
Yeah, I wouldn't hold that too high. It's pretty far out.
I wouldn't hold that too high.
Next year's E3 is where we should see something from that.
Yeah.
For some at a serious level.
Yeah. Next year's E3, maybe even GDC. Maybe
you might start seeing some serious stuff from that.
Yeah. And then after the PlayStation 4 show is Nintendo, which is Tuesday. And they're going to focus a lot on Splatoon, from what I understand. They had this weird, very dark sort of trailer for some new add-on for Splatoon 2. Where they had this really unusually scantily clad character walking through this sort of darker dystopian world, which is sort of unusual for Nintendo. So they're going to be focusing more on some kind of new gameplay mode for Splatoon 2. They may also touch on the new, which is a big franchise for them, which is Smash Brothers. We might get information on maybe some DLC for Mario Odyssey, which has been a big success for them. Which has been a big popular game for them. And we might actually maybe get a trailer or gameplay video of the new Metroid Prime.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they go with that.
Don't know if they will show any new IPs. I don't know if they'll show any new IPs.
It's rare for Nintendo to actually go with new IPs. once in a blue moon.
They did it with the
It's
Switch.
slow.
Yeah, they did it with the Switch. They did ARMS, which has been popular. They did it with ARMS. Splatoon was for the Wii and Wii U.
Like I said, it's a slow process.
Yeah, it's slow. It's a slow process for them. What they've been mostly doing lately is they have been porting over Wii U titles to the Switch. Games that didn't get as much attention, they've been porting those over to the Switch.
Yeah, we're gonna need to get one eventually.
Yeah, we're gonna need to get one eventually. Well, we won't be streaming those games because Nintendo.
Because just Nintendo.
Yeah.
Nintendo.
But we will be streaming a lot more of PS4 and Xbox games once we get the whole setup in there working and beaten into submission.
Yes. it's being argumentative right now.
Yes. It's not playing nice. It's new tech. When you play around with cutting edge, you eventually get you eventually bleed.
Like it's new tech, and what it says is, "I'm gonna bleed."
So, again, let's see, what time is the last press conference tomorrow? Because we won't be on at the same time tomorrow.
No. Well, Developer Digital says, it starts, oh dear, it says 11 p.m., so it'll be 10 here, so it's gonna be really late.
Wow.
Wow, yeah. Okay then. Okay, I didn't realize that was that late, because it might be 11 before that's even done.
Oh, wow. Yeah. If it goes on like it did, we may or may not cover Devolver Digital because, I don't know, because we might want to try and do the live thing earlier.
Given that Square Enix is at 1 p.m., maybe Devolver Digital might be maybe the next day or something.
No, that's Square Enix. That's tomorrow. We could do a thing
No,
for
Square
Devolver.
Enix is Monday.
Yeah, Square Enix is Monday. Devolver Digital is tomorrow.
No. What I was saying was, as far as recording our thoughts about it.
Oh, yeah.
Just as a thought, if it's too late,
Yeah.
if it gets to be a bit much. There's the other possibility. There's a pretty big window between some of these. Maybe doing small ones in between or. Because you go from 4 to 9, I don't know how long Microsoft is going to be. You're looking at almost, 4 hours or something in between those? So,
Yeah.
might be easier 9, 10, 11. But yeah, that's a pretty big window.
Yeah. We may. It depends on how things work out. I mean, we're up usually around that time. I mean, I know you're up.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of on the trying to be upside right now. So
Wow.
I was up all night working on. I was up all night working on that studio. So I'm really feeling
we've had this come along at the same time E3's coming, and we got to cover E3. But we got this whole thing going on in there.
Yeah, and I've been working on that. I've been working on that studio, and that's if I look tired, it's because I am, because I spent all night last night trying to straighten out that machine because it boots when it feels like it.
We're like Odo needing his bucket.
I'm gonna need a mop soon. So if I appear tired, it's because I've been putting a lot of hours in on that machine.
Yeah. I mean, when we're done here, I may collapse for a little while.
I absolutely know I am. When we get up here, I'm going to be down for a while.
But we're definitely going to be covering Microsoft and Bethesda tomorrow. If we can, Devolver Digital. But I'd like to, but I'm not sure our brains could handle it.
It might, yeah, we don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah. But, so E3 has officially started. First conference is down. We got
It's
3 tomorrow. 3 tomorrow, 4 on Monday, and then 1 on Tuesday. Like, and we don't. Yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow, definitely. So,
yeah.
When is that one start tomorrow? Microsoft?
The first one is, it says 4 p.m. ET, so I guess it'd be what, 3 p.m. here?
Yep, because we're in Central Time.
Yeah.
He's in Texas.
So 3 o'clock here.
Y'all. Texas, y'all.
A long draw, okay.
Long draw.
A long draw.
Okay. So we will definitely be on tomorrow, and we will. You know what? Do the stream at 11. Do the stream at 11. 11.
Talking about
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay. Well, it depends on how long there's. I'm assuming there's not going to be that long.
Yep.
The developer digital one. Let's see.
He says the edits went through with the other video, y'all.
Y'all.
Okay, so we will be back tomorrow at 11 to talk about what we saw from the from Microsoft and Sony, and that'll be about the same time Devolver Digital is having their Weird Fest. Of course, Microsoft will probably talk a little bit about some of Devolver Digital's stuff. 11 p.m. That'll be 11 p.m. Central.
Central
So
time.
it'll be 12 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. So that's where the next stream will be. The day 2. Today is day 1. Tomorrow's day 2. We're going to day 3, then day 4. Alright. So we got that settled tomorrow at 11 p.m. for tomorrow's live stream. We will give our impressions of Microsoft and getting Bethesda. Scatterbrained. So, if you like the content here and you want to get notifications on, any and all future videos and live streams for the channel, consider subscribing to us. Yeah, we've been keeping notes on the whole I got a whole page of notes from the EA conference, and I'll be keeping notes on all the other conferences as we watch them. We've been watching them
just
live.
go by his notes.
Yeah.
I just go by his notes, though.
So, you want to get notifications on any and all future videos and live streams on the Gamerspace channel, click that subscribe icon and hit that bell icon. Now, because YouTube has been mucking around with their algorithms, and not everybody's been getting notifications from every channel. So if you want to get notifications of everything new that comes from Gamers Bay, go to the Gamers Bay community on Google+. We post every new video, every live stream gets posted there so that you'll get up-to-the-minute notifications of everything that we do here. And also, the Gamers Bay community is a very friendly and troll-free environment where you can hang out there. It is safe for your kids to hang out in the Gamers Bay community. We were originally built around retro gaming, so we have originally started with an older, more mature audience, more mature membership. But we welcome anybody and everybody, and we're one of the oldest. We're one of the oldest gaming communities on Google+, and we're one of the fastest growing. So come and join us, and I think you will like your stay. So I have been, let's see, here, first one. Okay, he says, he's saying, are you asleep?
Oh, if he's talking about me, I'm trying not to be. It's been up all night and then trying to do this today. I'm not.
Well, you said you sort of drowned off to sleep on Dave. You said.
Oh, I was talking right to him, and I just went right in the middle of a sentence or something. I just was like out. So. It's been rough with all the work I've been trying to do on that. So it's just one of those things that's a lot of work.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. One of Gamers Bay is one of Google Plus's oldest gaming communities. After the social network went live, Gamers Bay was one of the earliest that started, and it's become. The way we run the community has sort of become the gold standard for how communities are run on Google+. So we're sort of a big deal over there on Google+. And also, to answer your question, Meme King or it's spelled meme as in mean without the N, but Meme King, to answer your question about what is SJW propaganda, what basically that is how to describe this in PG, G and PP way.
The simple way to do it is it's a political ideology for diversity. It's a misguided attempt at equality.
Yeah.
It's trying to, but it winds up, unfortunately, the way that they go about it sort of becomes a form of racism in its own right.
Yeah. Basically, to SJWs, everyone should be equal except white guys, white guys and men. Basically,
the promotion of minorities to the exclusion of white.
Mm-hmm.
It goes too far past simple basic equality.
Yep.
Which is all that's really needed.
Yeah. Simple basic equality for everybody, where it is they want to exclude certain people and they want special treatment for everyone else. That's essentially what it is.
And there's a little bit of mixed into it, teaching people that, that it sounds simple when you first hear it, but you realize how far it gets out of control in terms of that, what am I trying to say?
Teaching that men being masculine is bad.
Well, there's a little more to it that that you have be able to have anything you want, sort of thing. How was that?
The way it was described, and it was a really good speech.
Yeah, that speech. That was the guy was describing it really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it says, Daniel says, it seems like SJWs enact more inequality than anything. I would agree. Yeah.
They do. That it really is a form of inequality.
It comes down to how they were raised. Most SJWs belong to the group we call millennials. They were born from 1984 and up. And they were pampered and coddled and sheltered most of their lives by their parents when they were children. When they participated in sports as children, they were given participation trophies. When they lost, their parents nagged teachers, and nagged school systems so that their kids couldn't fail grades.
They didn't learn how to deal with failure.
They didn't learn how to deal with failure. And when they got out into the workforce, they got out into high school, got out into college, got out into the workforce, they suddenly discovered that their mommies couldn't get them raises.
Yeah.
And they couldn't deal with, they were not, and I warned about this. I saw this coming. I warned about this, about kids being overly sheltered. I said, they are not being prepared for the real world. And guess what? I was right.
So that's really what it boils down to. And the whole idea of equality is trying to both fix that for them, trying to somehow give them the leg up, and at the same time this whole reverse racial thing. And they feel like the white guy is oppressing them somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, there are legitimate equality issues. It's not to demean the idea that there's not legitimate equality issues, but they take it too far.
Yeah. They take it way too far. And Daniel, yeah, third wave feminism, I would not even grace it with calling it feminism, because that really that insults the civil rights movement by calling them feminists, or what we call them third wave feminists, where the symbol of feminism for years was the ladies working on planes during World War II. You know, how the women were bolting together the planes in World War II. That was the symbol of feminism. Strong women. Yeah. You know, working, doing their part for the war effort. Whereas now, feminism is these uptight women just screaming and calling men evil, and other women saying that men should be gathered up in concentration camps.
It's to the point of stupidity, because it's like, you know, my feeling is, it's like basic feminism is like women have the right to do, when it comes to like, when an employer hires somebody, that woman has the same right to have the same pay as anybody else. It's like, if it's a particular job, if they've got the qualifications, they can do the job. There's no question about that. Mm-hmm. It's when they try to do that and they try to exclude other groups or minorities or white or whatever, whenever you try to do any of that based on any of that, where it's not about their qualifications, it's about their skin color or their gender, mm-hmm. and you're excluding them because of that. Any group, it doesn't matter. That the qualifications takes a back seat to that.
I won't name names unless he wants to be named, but I had a conversation with someone who said that they tried to get a job someplace and they wouldn't hire them because they were white.
Yeah, and so
they were qualified.
And that's why the SJW stuff is not really a good thing, because that's the territory it's in.
Yeah, that's the territory it's in, and unfortunately that's infected Star Wars. That's why The Last Jedi was
That's
The
why
way
it
it
got
was?
so much. Yeah, that's why it got so much.
And
Well, there's a couple of things, but that's among the things of why.
that's among the things.
Bad writing was another part of it. Bad writing plus that equal to disaster.
Yeah, because let's face it, Ray is a Mary Sue. She has no struggle. She doesn't go through the hero's journey, or she didn't really go through the hero's journey the way we were supposed to. She had a little bit of it in the Force Awakens, but
More of a hero's walk through the park rather than
hero's
a journey.
Yeah, heroes walk through the park. She attained power too fast.
It didn't feel natural about it. It didn't feel organic how the process would go.
Yeah, and
I mean, look at the struggle Luke went through, and all the ups and downs he had, and Anakin and Obi-Wan and everything they went through, and then you compare those to Rey, and there's a stark difference between how that worked.
like she's had all her power handed to her on a silver platter,
And
which
it's not the,
it falls in line with the ideology of social justice warriors, where they believe, oh, if you just want it enough, you can have it.
yeah. And so the character feels flat and uninteresting, and it's just a story aspect to it. It just feels like it's like it's got cheat mode on or God mode on. You know, it's on by default, and so that, like, if you play a game with God mode or cheat mode, it's uninteresting. It's boring. It's like, okay, I can do all this. I see a little bit of story and oh hum. And that's the problem, is she doesn't have to level up. She doesn't have to learn how to grow. These things don't allow her to grow in a natural, normal way.
Yeah. So, Mimi King, I hope all of that answers your question.
Yeah.
I hope all of that answers your question on that. And we covered that a little more than we really wanted to on that.
I think we did
I'd rather that we not talk about all that drama and we just focus on the games.
I do think we cut it fair enough, though.
Make Gamers Bay great again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's enough negativity in the world. There's enough negativity in the gaming community. We need to be positive, you know, because I think a lot of things are going to work out. And Persian cats' lives matter. Oh, okay, I'm done here now. But
Flash face bomb. But okay.
Yeah. Hope that answers your question. And again, you're not gonna find any of that in Gamers Bay. So if you want a really good community, come on over to Gamers Bay, and you will like your stay here. We're the oldest, fastest growing gaming communities on Google+, and we have a sister community, the Gamers Video Archive, where you'll find a lot of Let's Play videos. And then this channel, which is the official channel for the community. So, I've been Mike. This is Tygra Kahn. I keep pointing in the wrong direction.
Have a good day now, yeah.
We will be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. Central. That's 12 p.m. Eastern, to talk about what we saw at Microsoft and Bethesda's conferences, and probably try to avoid getting our brains twisted by Devolver Digital.
And if there is some No Man's Sky, you will probably not be able to keep me still.
Oh, you're going to be bouncing off the walls.
You'll just have to do snapshots of my frame, because I'll be just a blur back and forth.
That's the way we bounce off walls, bounce off walls, bounce off walls.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for everyone showing up in chat. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Peace.